Welcome to the domain of Dr. Jester, are the first words that greet us. Cimmerio and Elric reach the city, and they are greeted by guards. Elric learns that spies are held in the tower of Munshajik, barbarian spies from the southern lands. Elric tells the guards to escort his lover and then runs towards the tower. The tower was named after the wizard architect that created the sea maze. The tower also watches over all 5 entrances of the maze. Navigators are only permitted to know one route, and one route only when it comes to the sea maze, but if the spies learned of all 5 of the entrances, then that would spell the doom of the dreaming city. Elric rode his horse there with reckless abandon. Awaiting Elric in the tower was an artist with a scalpel in his hand. That man, the artist, is Dr. Jest, a performer of the most cruel of arts. Learning secrets. A performative one rather than a creative one, but a good doctor has argued otherwise. But that makes sense. One would make that argument once he gets the position of chief interrogator of Melniboné. The doctor greets Elric. The albino emperor looks at the spies, a woman and a boy, both hung upside down with cut marks on them. The boy says demon. Elric asks if they reveal their secrets. The doctor says that not yet. The spies like being dramatic. But the doctor thinks that they are there to map the route. Elric just asks when he will get their secrets, and the good doctor promises that soon. As Emperor, Elric had to watch the ritual. He wasn't as much as disgusted as he was bored. He learned long ago to get rid of feelings that he didn't need it as an emperor. While in contemplation, the doctor came to Elric to tell him that the spies really came to mark the route of the maze. The doctor tells Elric that when these spies do not return, the young kingdoms will sail forth nevertheless. Elric is wondering if they won't know they are being expected, but the doctor tells him rumors have it that 4 spies were seen trying to escape the maze back, and the spies were slain. Elric summons all his generals and admirals in front of the ruby throne. And who comes first? Of course, Irkun, who asked to lead the armies himself since the emperor should not be trifled with such things. Elric shuts him down since that is the duty of the emperor. The Vimtvar comes with news from the dragon cave. Elric welcomes him and tells him to wait until all the generals are there. Once everyone is gathered, Elric asks if they will let these young kingdoms come and take the wealth of the dreaming city. Of course, everybody says no. Then the emperor asks how they should take care of their enemies. Irkun says to take the dragons and battle barges and strike first, burning their whole kingdoms. Vim tells him that's not possible, since they don't have dragons. Irkun asks what treachery is this, but Vim tells him because Irkun wanted to use the dragons against the Vilmerian pirates, the dragons are asleep and they aren't waking. Elric says this won't be an issue. Their navy is enough. He asks the admiral if the fleet is ready. It is, but it can't all fit in the maze. So Elric orders that part of it set sail now and stand by the coast to get rid of any enemies that might try to flee. Irkun again tries to ask for the command of the warriors on the land and sea since the emperor shouldn't be disturbed. Maybe he has a book he wants to read. Elric thanks him and denies him again. Elric goes to his quarters where Tagobones, his old teacher, is waiting for him. The teacher asks the emperor if it's true that he will know the joy of battle. Elric confirms, and the old man shows Elric the armor worn by the old Melnibonian emperors, said to be invincible even against the most dreaded swords, Stormbringer and Mournblade, if the higher powers did not take them a long time ago. The teacher also says Elric learned well the art of war and how to fight with a sword and bow and spear. Despite his condition, he made himself the most skilled fighter. Except for one, of course. Elric asks if it's Irkun, but the teacher does not confirm it. He says, except for one. The teacher wants to put the armor on Elric, but Elric wants to take a bath first and sleep before battle. Tagobones says if that is what he wishes, he will comply. Elric comments how his teacher would have him strut around in the armor as if he was Lord Ariok himself. Of course, the teacher is mortified at the accusation of heresy, but Elric reassures him he said worse without anything happening. And in the dreaming city, the emperor controls the demons, not the other way around. The teacher says, if you say so, my lord, and Elric tells him that is the truth. Elric in his black armor stood upon his golden flagship. He regarded his plan. He knew it'd work, he was certain of it, but he found the waste of life, both Melnibonian and barbarian, to be a waste. Irkun has already found himself upon the flagship with his cousin, and using his own sorcery, enveloped the sea maze in a mist. In the mist they waited. As the Southlanders came, Elric told his men to let them pass. And so they did. Finally, once all the ships were past the giant Melnibonian fleet, it appeared out of nowhere, as if it materialized from stone. While the barbarians had 100 ships and Elric merely half, the Melnibonian armada dwarfed the Southlanders in size. The battle occurred as you would expect, with the humans being annihilated and joining the depths where Strasha crews his boats with the souls of those that died on ocean conflicts. But it wasn't all that good. A messenger came to tell Elric that 5 ships managed to get away. Elric expected this, because what net catches all the fishes? Irkut wanted to pursue them to get more glory for their empire, but Elric told him no, they would let them go. Of course, the ambitious prince is shocked by this news, but Elric says it's better to let them live and tell their kin what happened there. Irkut implies that Elric let them go because he doesn't have the drugs that grant him his strength, and that's why he let them go, because he was too weak. Elric told his cousin that he is trying his patience, but in typical Irkun fashion, he deflects by saying he is thinking that the people will say he is weak. Elric is annoyed by this and asks who will think so. His cousin? Elric gives in finally and accepts to follow the boats. Irkun turns to relay the orders with a shine in his eye. The golden barrages of Melniboné sailed serenely on the water until they reached their targets, and with iron hooks they drew in their prey. Elric was the first to jump into battle on the Southlander deck. He cut 3 foes down with his broadsword that was once used by the human hero Obek, and made his way to the captain of the ship, who greeted Elric. "Die, you white-faced demon, die! You have no place on this earth any longer. Do you not see that?" Elric responds, "You should have left us alone. When did Imrir last sail against the young kingdoms?" "You offer us harm by your very existence, whiteface. Your sorcery, your custom, your arrogance." These words echoed in Elric's head that he almost forgot to defend himself. Almost. Elric asked if this was the motive to attack them, their disgust for them, or was it the wealth they possessed? The captain says that greed is a human quality, but Melnibonians aren't human. They think themselves gods, but they aren't even that. Surprisingly, Elric agrees with the captain. The captain tells the Emperor that the chaos gods they worship will be their undoing. The human holy men and seers have seen the fall of Melniboné. Elric tells him the Chaos Lords have taken their blessing away 1,000 years ago. Fewer children are born in the city, their dragons no longer breed, and the humans have managed to traverse the sea maze. Perhaps it is the Chaos Lord's fault for their waning power, or perhaps they've grown tired of power. The captain wants to talk, but Elric stabs him. The captain complains that this wasn't fair, and that they barely begun talking. He does say the Emperor is most skillful, before cursing him to burn in the higher hell, and saying farewell. Elric cuts the captain's head and throws it into the water. Irkun comes and says the captain is right. When asked how, the cousin says when it comes to Elric's skill with the sword. Elric never managed to make himself hate his cousin. But now he did. Like he saw through his cousin's eyes what was inside his soul. That made Elric wish he was never born a Melnibonian, that his cousin was never born to begin with. The Golden Fleet catch up to the fleeing barbarians. Having slaves drugged up that improve their strength for hours helps with that, even if the slaves end up dying shortly after the drugs wane. The Melnibonians unleash fireballs upon the fleeing ships. 2 of them get hit, but the other turn course and sail towards the flagship. More fireballs are released. One ship starts burning but does not change its course. Elric smiles, thinking this was the plan, to be hit with a fireball, and as the flames spread, ram it into the flagship to burn it too. Now the barbarians prepare their hooks. Elric wants to fight, but his strength is fading. Irkun tells his cousin to stay there, but Elric refuses. The Emperor finds himself in a 2-on-1 situation, and it seems that he gets overpowered. But Elric lets them know that he won't go to hell unattended as he kills one of his assailants. Maybe he won't go at all. The other barbarian calls Elric enslaver of his ancestors. He proclaims that the might of the young kingdoms is united against him. He almost puts our albino protagonist to death, but Elric manages to stab him as the barbarian lunges towards him. The cadaver falls upon Elric as he scarcely feels the impact of the corpse as his deficient blood no longer enriched by drugs betray him. And the blackness closes in around him like a pack of hungry wolves about a lamb. A splash of seawater wakes Elric up to see the carnage of the battle. He asks his cousin, who of course was there, if they were victorious. Irkun says yes, but he fears should the battle have lasted longer, they would have lost their esteemed leader. Elric says he is still their leader and orders their return to the dreaming city so he might sit upon the ruby throne once more.